Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Sin.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Gaming in the Yeltsin Years. And today, we're going to be talking about LOL, which stands for...
Well, in this case, LOL stands for lack of love, but what's confusing is that the guy that made this also made a completely unrelated game that is called LOL that does stand for laugh out loud.
It's a commentary on himself.
This game is... It is mostly described very, very lazily as weird. When people say that lack of love is weird, what they really mean is this doesn't fit into a pre-existing genre, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a game where you can just go, oh, it's a life sim, because if you say it's a life sim, you're thinking of something like Sport, which it's not like. I've seen it described in contemporary reviews of it as an RPG. And it's kind of an RPG, but it's also got no RPG mechanics to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't have stats or levels or anything like that. It doesn't have an inventory. It does have abilities that sort of makes it a little bit like a sort of top-down Legend of Zelda thing, except the emphasis isn't really on exploration or combat.
Yeah, it's about discovering the game and discovering yourself as you play the game. Because honestly, I feel like if maybe I were on vacation and I played like maybe 10 minutes a day, once a day, or if I were doing something else while playing this game, I'd really like it. You know, I like games. I even like Zarion. I finished, what is it, Psycho Dream?
Yeah, by the same
I
director.
finished that piece of shit. Like, I loved it. But this game... I finished about 5 or 6 levels out of 11.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And yeah, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I physically and psychologically cannot. So I put down the controller and I went to the gym to calm myself down. Because the amount of frustration.
Oh my god.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I got to the point where I'm like, I think it's better if I just stop. It's not that I disliked it. It's that it unlocked frustrations in me I thought I worked through over the years.
So you're saying it's confrontational?
It's confrontational, yes!
Yeah,
It's
okay.
so confrontational. Yeah. Please continue.
Let's start by explaining, like, the premise of this game and the story of it. This game does have a full motion video rendered intro, but there's no text in it. And there's actually almost no text whatsoever in this game. We are playing an English patched version of it by two people called Rolly and Rafagam. But you kind of don't need the translated version to be able to play this. It is extremely text light. We'll come to the one instance where the text is kind of useful later. But suffice to say, you do not need to play this thing in English because it's barely in a language to begin with. So, according to the manual, on a distant planet...
Oh, there's a manual? Is it just a blank piece of paper?
Functionally, yeah. There's like 3 paragraphs of text in it.
Okay.
So, Sin, on a distant planet, as part of the LOL project...
Lol.
A human colonization plan, the planetary development robot Halloumi was launched into space. Halloumi wanders in search of a planet habitable by humans, and finally finds one. Halloumi lands on the planet, just as the program instructed. It continues its development work alone in preparation for the eventual arrival of humans. Yeah. So that's the entirety of the plot as outlined to you in the manual.
Yeah.
And that's also what you see in this intro. You see this little, like, vaguely Wall-E looking robot thing.
Yeah.
Is on this spaceship. It lands on another planet, unfolds, and this army of basically little, like, robot bulldozers and tools and things come out of it and start kind of terraforming the planet.
Do you know what I found really good about this, though? There's no text, there's no explanation, but they did such a good job with the intro, you knew exactly what they were saying.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if you watched the intro and you read that synopsis, you would probably, I think, assume that you played as Halloumi.
Halloumi, yeah. I assumed so.
Yeah, you'd think, okay, this is going to be like a simulation. It's going to be like Alpha Centauri or something where I have to build a new world on this planet. Or you might even think it's like Pikmin, where like you're Halloumi and you have to make friends with all the animals on the planet to accomplish something.
Yeah.
Not only do you not play as Halloumi, you don't really see Halloumi properly until like 4 or 5 levels in. Sin, what do you play as in Like of Love?
Well, first you play as a dead because you didn't know you were supposed to do something during the intro screen. And you immediately die because you're eaten by a fish.
Yeah, you start off playing as an egg, and you have to wiggle the thumbstick to make the egg hatch into the player
Yeah.
character. And if you leave it
Yeah.
too long, a fish will eat you. So, Sin, what does the egg hatch into?
Sophie, I'm going to be straight with you. I'm not a
Yeah,
biologist. I have no
okay.
idea what the hell that is.
It is kind of a cross between a Weevil and a Metroid.
Is that your scientific name for it?
It's sort of like an alien like water flea, but it's got 4 little legs and a sort of snout like a weevil,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of scurries around. I showed it to a friend of mine and they just said, oh, it's a skedaddler.
Skedaddler,
Skedaddling
yes.
is your
The
primary method
skedaddler.
of
Yeah.
movement. This first level, what was that like for you?
Well, interestingly enough, I skedaddle out of the little basin of water, and my gamer instinct kicked in. I'm like, I must kill everything.
Yeah.
And so I just started killing everything I saw, and coincidentally, that actually made me progress through the first level. But it was a mere
Yes.
coincidence because to progress, you actually have to do intelligent things. But I just happened to, I don't know how. But then when I tried to progress further, obviously it didn't work. So I had to look up a manual. And frustratingly enough, a manual was like even more confusing than the game itself. So I was double frustrated at that point.
Yeah, so basically, this is a game where if you've ever angrily said, how was I supposed to know to do that? You are going to have a horrible time playing this.
Yeah.
It's wrong to
Yep.
say this doesn't explain anything to you, but it doesn't directly tell you anything. It doesn't really tutorialize anything. It
Mm-hmm.
expects you to just kind of observe the environment and try to think through how it would work almost intuitively rather than logically and make your
Yeah.
decisions based on that. We were talking earlier about like this is sort of a life sim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I started playing it, I thought, oh, is this going to be like Evo Search for Eden, where my little Metroid Weevil, it's going to eat the other Metroid Weevils, and then a meter is going to go up, and it's going to
Yeah.
turn into something else. That's not what happens.
No.
So we'll get to like the underlying set of ideas that the game has later on. But
Mhm.
what you immediately notice is this is a game that associates evolution, as in like moving forward, not with being bigger or stronger or like using tools or being particularly intelligent or anything. It views
Mhm.
evolution as you existing cooperatively with the things around you.
Yeah, it's like turn on your empathy cap and try to navigate the world by being like, oh, what's going on here? Who's bullying who? Who can I help around here? You know?
Yeah, so that's essentially what you're talking about when you say, I walked around killing something and progressed by accident. Is that
Mhm.
early on in the first area, you see these sort of like a cross between a snail and a squid that are completely passive. They will not attack you. And if you attack them, instead of fighting back, they just retreat into their shells.
Yeah.
And they are being bullied by a creature that kind of looks like you. It's bigger than you and it's red, right? So
Yeah.
what you do is you go up to the red thing and you just kind of slap it. You can kill it if you want, but all you need to do is just like scare it a bit and it'll run away and it'll leave the snail squid alone. And then when they
Mhm.
realize that you've helped them, they're like, thank you. And they give you this little, like, they're called Cosmo Balls. So they give you this weird sort of little wisp orb thing. And the idea of the game is when you have collected a certain number of these Cosmo Ball orbs, and you find a safe place, which is marked out by these kind of crystals,
Hmm.
you will then evolve to the next form.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the goal of the first area is that you need to find 3 of these balls to evolve into like the next form of Metroid Weevil.
That's right. So you can piss on a plant and get to the next level.
Yeah, this is what we mean by like it's not tutorializing things, but it's expecting you to pay attention because
Yeah.
you see a little creature like you go through that process and turn into a slightly bigger Metroid Weevil. And then later in the level, you see it cross this gap by urinating on a flower that is underneath, causing the flower to grow and it becomes a platform and it crosses the platform. Now, you do have a dedicated urinate button in this, but because you're a
Yeah.
tiny little thing, when you use it, it doesn't go very far. So you can't so you have to figure out how to get bigger so you can
Yeah.
effectively piss off the side of a platform.
Yeah.
Because this is level 1, that's like as obvious as it's really going to get. Later on they kind of
Yeah.
do away with that entirely and expect you to just kind of experiment and think things through rather than show you how it's going to work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the structure of the game, is you need to form these like friendly relationships with the creatures in the space around you. And when you do that, you will collect Cosmo Balls. When you have enough Cosmo Balls, you will evolve into the next form, which will unlock the next area. What's interesting about the Cosmo Ball system is that there's way more Cosmo Balls than you actually need to
Then.
finish the game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Mm-hmm.
certain levels where, like, if you manage to be friends with everything on the level, when you move on to the next one, you might already have, like, 2 or 3 or 4 of the Cosmo Balls kind of banked. So you might be able to, in the next level, evolve right away and functionally skip everything
Yeah.
you had to do there. Yeah.
But if you do that, the bad thing is that you might actually miss on certain things in that level.
Yeah.
You know what this is making me think of? What game this is
What?
making me think of? Like, I don't know, I just had a vision to a game I played about a decade ago that I threw in the trash and didn't pick up for like 6
I
months.
was going to joke that it was Bloodborne.
It's blood. No, it's. I need to
How?
play
No,
this
so,
game
look, I'm
again.
sorry. We just made a point of having a conscious uncoupling with From Software, right? We are now playing this Dreamcast Evolution sim from 26 years ago, and your first thought is that we have to start talking about Bloodborne. All right, what? Just what about this fucking thing made you think of Bloodborne? Tell me.
Okay, it's the vibes. It's how I felt. Like when I played Bloodborne, I had no idea what the fuck's going on, no idea what to do. I felt so frustrated. I don't even know if I'm joking when I say I threw the physical copy in the trash. It's Bloodborne. You know what? When they say fucking Souls, like no, 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 no. LOL is a fucking Souls. Like all these other games, I fucking want to be.
Please don't. No, oh, no, okay. Problem though, right, is that
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Bloodborne, like, it's fairly obvious that you have to kill shit, and there's kind of only one direction you can go in at the start of the game. So,
No, Sophie,
this, oh
because
god.
you don't. When I encountered the chapel dweller, I did almost kill him. So it's like in this game, I actually, when I started this game, LOL, I did beat up the poor little squids. I was like, get out of your fucking shell. Let me beat you up.
Sure,
You see, it's literally the same.
thank you.
Except LOL actually broke me. I finished Bloodborne. LOL is
Eventually.
harder. Eventually, yeah.
So the way that you help these creatures, it's going to be a combination of observing what they do and
Mm-hmm.
also just kind of trying everything.
Yeah.
You basically have 4 verbs in this game, which is not that many.
Yeah.
So you've
Yeah.
got a communicate button that makes you just kind of go, that is signaling, like, it's kind of like a friendly greeting button. Once you have made friends with animals, if you use communicate on them, they will sometimes heal you in return. You also have an attack button that doubles as like an aggressive communication button. So if you have something targeted, you press the button, you'll try biting it. But if nothing's targeted, it'll just go like that. Like you're communicating,
Yeah.
but in an aggressive way, trying to scare something off.
Mhm.
You've got a sleep button.
Yeah.
When you sleep, that is basically how you recover health. You recover health normally anyway, but if you sleep, it'll recover faster.
But you could also die in your sleep.
Yeah, you can. We'll get to this later. This is like the only real problem I have with Lack of Love, is the way that it does hunger. I thought everything
Okay,
else was
yeah.
great. Yeah. And then you have the piss button.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it sounds like. You have a dedicated urination button.
Hmm.
When you do it, your little creature will pause and just have a little piss.
But no, it just like lift its leg.
Well, as you
Just
evolve
like,
into different
yeah,
forms, you piss in different
yeah.
positions as well. Like, they've really thought this through. So you're going to have to use a combination of those actions to form relationships with the things around you.
Now, the way you say it may seem intuitive, but it's not. It's like, on one level, you gotta sleep by a waterfall and press the communication button in your sleep once a creature approaches you. Like, what? Like, how am I supposed to know that?
But you're not. Like, that's the whole thing. Okay, so the sleeping by the waterfall thing is like an example of what I'm talking about when I say that this is very much about like a combination of intuition and also just trial and error. So, from a trial and error point of view, you've only got 4 things you can do.
Hmm.
So, if you have absolutely zero idea what the fuck is supposed to be happening, which is the impression I'm getting from talking to you, because you're limited to those 4 things, you know it's going to be one of those.
No, but it's not one of those. It's sleep and communicate. That's two. So
Yeah,
that's
okay, well, you
that's
do
so it's
two
no longer
things.
four. No, it's no longer four verbs.
Okay,
Okay,
it's
it's
5.
five. Sleep, but you
Yeah,
don't even know you can do the fifth verb, Sophie. You don't even know you can sleep and communicate.
elite gamers of the world, do you have what it takes to try 5 different things? And then there's like the intuition side of that, which is that you can see that there is this sort of crustacean fish thing in the water that you need to become friends with. So you know this thing is scared of you. So it's sort of like it'll gingerly approach you, and then if you move or do anything, it'll dart back and hide. So you can sort of think through that, like not in terms of mechanics, like I've got the magic fish attracting thing. You think it through from the perspective of the fish, like, okay, the fish is clearly scared of me and it's scared of movement. So if I go to sleep, the fish is more likely to approach me, and you try that, and that ends up being the solution.
Wait, so I got a question for you. You
Certainly.
finished the game, right?
Yeah.
So on one of the levels, I saw footprints in
Hmm.
the dirt they were huge. So is it that I'm tiny or is Halloumi a giant?
Size is relative. This actually becomes part of the story.
All right, go on.
So we mentioned that we're playing this game in English, but also you kind of don't need to play it in English.
Hmm.
The one kind of asterisk there is that the names of the creatures in the game are themselves a hint for what you are supposed to do to become friends with them.
I saw the names when I somehow went into the pause screen and went into the like option screen and I couldn't go into it again. And then anyway, I saw they have names. I just didn't pay attention.
There's your problem. So, like some examples of that. So, there is a creature, if you're playing in Japanese, it's called Tasukete. Even if you don't know that much Japanese, you'll probably recognize Tasukete means help me.
Yeah, from anime.
Yeah, it's just like it's if you watch Japanese media, you will eventually just pick up on certain words because people use them all the time. So this thing is called Tasukete. In the English patch, it is called help me. So you know that this thing here, the solution is to help it with something, and that's a very obvious
Hmm.
example because when you find the Tasukete, it's being picked on by a bunch of other creatures, so you scare them away. Tasukete becomes your friend. Another one that is a bit more, I guess, difficult to pass is in Japanese, it's called Nyoro Matoi, which is a
Okay.
combination of the onomatopoeia for like something slithering around and a word that means like something that you're wearing.
Okay.
And in English, it's called slither over. So what you end up doing with that is you have to search the area for these sort of wriggling. They're like I actually thought they were part of the HUD at one point because they look so odd. These kind of slithering lines of like blue dots that there's some sort of like sperm thing that lives in the water, and you have to wait for one of them to come to the shoreline, and then it will
Hmm.
stick to you. And then you walk with that thing on you over to a neuromatoi.
Hmm.
When you do that, it will hop from you, and the neuromatoi will start wearing it. Like it's like this sort of symbiotic relationship that the two species have. And that's how you
Yeah.
do the neuromatoi. I think they maybe realized that some of this was a little hard to figure out because they mentioned that the Lack of Love website had additional hints on it for what you're supposed to do with these creatures.
Oh.
The Lack of Love website no longer exists.
Aw, darn it.
There is a very good guide on game FAQs that will just lay it out for you. But also, I feel like the more that you use that guide, the less you're kind of really engaging with that world. So it's really about just like thinking through situations, approaching every single species that you run into kind of on its own terms. There's not a series of like rules or methods that you follow each time. So, like, there's another species early on where they are trying to shelter from rain, and there are these big kind of like fungus trees, and if you hit one of the fungus trees, the top will open up.
Yeah.
So what you do is you wait for it to start raining, and then you start hitting the trees around them, and then that forms a canopy, and it protects them from the rain, and that's how they help you. Later on, there is another species that is it sort of looks like a cross between a bat and a cat with these massive ears. And you see that they're trying to sleep, but every time they sleep, these flies buzz over and wake them up. And through experimentation, you'll eventually realize that when you urinate, the flies will go over to where you urinated, presumably because the smell is attracting them.
Mm-hmm.
So what you then do is that you wait for the cat things to try going to sleep, and then you urinate somewhere nearby, and the flies will go and fly over there, and then they can finally sleep, and that's how you become friends. So every single one of these creatures that you need to form a relationship with, it has its own kind of self-contained way that you do that. There's not a specific method that you follow to figure it out. You just have to sit there and observe these things. This is what leads to my only real problem with Lack of Love, which is that it has a
Yeah.
hunger system.
Yeah.
So the problem is that because this game, so much of it is about like long periods of not quite knowing what you're doing. And maybe like you're trying the wrong thing over and over again. Maybe, you just fall asleep for a long time because you think that'll do something and ends up not doing anything. Because of that, the fact that you have a ticking clock over your head is incredibly like just disruptive, I found. So you end up in these situations where you're just kind of like trying to do something but having to constantly stop to go and look for food, and there might only be like 2 or 3 places where food is actually regenerating in each level, and these levels are quite big. Like, I understand kind of why it's there. This is a game about survival. We'll get into this later, but like, you as a character don't actually have much agency to affect the world outside of like what's immediately around you. It's really just about living through the events of this story. And I understand completely why you would add like a hunger mechanic to that. But I just found it like it just was constantly interrupting everything. And the levels don't feel like they're designed around the hunger mechanic. It's like you'll be halfway through something and then realize that you've got to run to the other side of the level to find some respawning mushrooms and then run all the way back again. And I just sort of felt like it didn't add a ton, or maybe like if it was just easier to refill the hunger thing, I think I would have had less of an issue with it. So, let's talk about the guy that made this.
Yeah, Kenichi Nishi, born in 1967.
This is just the Wikipedia article, isn't it?
No, I looked on the internet. I don't know if the articles, on multiple articles, but yeah, from what I don't know if you did deeper, you probably did deeper
Yeah,
research.
no, I'm a big
so...
Kenichi Nishi fan.
Really?
Yeah, he did Psycho Dream.
Yeah, you told me that before. I guess I'm a fan by default.
Yeah, so Kenichi Nishi is a name that's like, it's not immediately going to ring bells in a lot of people's heads, but then when you list the games that he directed, there'll be something on there that you remember and you're like, oh, that fucking thing, that was strange. So he starts off working at a company called Telenet that made the Valis games. We talked a little bit about Valis when we did Psycho Dream. The first game where he appears to have like some sort of creative control over it is Psycho Dream. What's interesting like about Psycho Dream is that what Nishi does there within the parameters of, hey, make another game that's like Valis but is legally not Valis, is that he makes Psycho Dream into this kind of pseudo-adaptation of the works of a doujin erotic artist called Marino Nishizaki. So you can tell, like, even then, like, for his first project, he's a little left of center in his approach. He has, like, quite eclectic and diverse interests. So after working on Psycho Dream, he moves to Squaresoft
Yeah.
and he does some stuff with them. He works on the map design for Chrono Trigger and Mario RPG.
Apparently, during, again, this is internet, so I don't know how real this is, but apparently, during an interview years later, he was like, yeah, when I was working there, I was a very lazy employee. Apparently, he showed up late and he's like, yeah, I was one among 100, so what else?
Mm.
Yeah.
So then what happens is a bunch of people who were working at Square leave and they form their own studio called Lovedelic.
Oh, Sophie, that's an interesting and peculiar name. How did he ever come up with it?
Well, Sin, I'm glad you asked. So Lovedelic is called that because it's inspired by the name of the Yellow Magic Orchestra album, Technodelic.
Yeah.
Put a pin in that because Yellow Magic Orchestra is going to come back in a very, very big way. So,
Yeah.
Lovedelic only managed to do 3 games before they fold, and Nishi directs
Aw.
2 of them. This is one of them. The other one
Yeah.
he directs is Moon Remix RPG Adventure, which you can actually get an official English release of.
Okay, cool.
And that is a game, like I talked about this when we did Psycho Dream. Moon is a game that came out in 1997, but it has the sensibilities of like an indie game you would get today. Like it is very much
Mm-hmm.
about deconstructing game mechanics. It is very meta. It is very self aware. And something that it has in common with all of his work is it is very critical of the idea that in video games you get ahead by winning, by like beating people up, by killing
Yeah.
stuff. He's very, very opposed to that. You can see this
Yeah.
echoes throughout everything he designs. After Lovedelic folds, he ends up working on a game people might know called Chibi Robo, which is a GameCube game about little robots. The robots help people. He works on a game called Captain Rainbow that people may have heard of, where like it's an action game where you're a superhero, but the goal is that you're trying to be friends with all these people. He
Mm-hmm.
later on makes a bunch of games that are sort of like he does some farming sims, he does some like Animal Crossing style life sims. One of his mobile games that he does, I looked up, and it's a mobile game that uses the GPS on your phone. So the idea is you have to
Oh,
find other people who are playing it, and then
I like
you
Pokemon
have to
Go.
yeah you have to communicate with the people that you're playing with and try to get yourselves to like line up on like just in real life to create patterns. Yeah, and very confusingly, he also makes another game called LOL that is not this. So Nishi is a guy who like he has these very very specific sensibilities. He clearly doesn't want to just make like genre pieces. He has a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like specific interests he's trying to explore in his work, but also he never really gets like the clout to become an auteur figure. It almost feels like he was born out of time. Like he should have been born 20 years later and become like a
Yeah.
renowned indie dev.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I said this when we did Psycho Dream. If you play Moon and you didn't know when it came out or what platform it came out on, you would assume that, like, oh, this is someone riffing on Undertale. Like, it's got
Mm-hmm.
very similar themes. It's got a really similar approach. It even has the same atmosphere of everything is on one level, kind of like childlike and cartoonish, but then it has this very ominous kind of undercurrent to it. Like, it's a fascinating game, and I'm really glad that got an English release because people can actually play it now. But yeah, like check out Kenichi Nishi's oeuvre if you're ever curious.
Okay.
So we mentioned Lovedelic's name comes from the Yellow Magic Orchestra album Technodelic.
Yes.
Sin, what is the connection between Yellow Magic Orchestra and Lack of Love?
Yellow Magic Orchestra is like a band, like an electronic thing, and they're considered like a big deal.
The lazy way, I guess, to describe them if you haven't heard of them is they're kind of like Japanese craft work, but funkier.
Okay.
People may also have heard of Ryuchi Sakamoto independently of Yellow Magic Orchestra
Oh
because
yeah.
yeah, Sakamoto was a composer.
He's
He's
won
won Oscars.
Oscars. Well, basically, okay, so the YMO, they're a band, right?
Yep.
They're very like big in their like electronic field. And Sakamoto is one of the like I guess creators or founders of that
Yeah.
band. So the thing is, Nishi like loves Sakamoto. Basically, it's like one of his idols because his
He calls him
band.
Sakamoto Sensei in the interview.
There you go. And like he literally named his freaking studio after an album of this band, right? So, from what I understand, is one day Nishi hears that Sakamoto is going to be in this club called like Club Eden, and Nishi's like, "I gotta drop everything and go stalk him there." And they meet up in this club, right? And they start talking, and they like connect, and they stay in touch, they talk some more, and they realize that they have kind of like shared values where they have a concern in terms of where is this planet going, what are we doing with the environment, and like all of these things. And from what I remember, Sakamoto was like, "Hey bro, what if we make a game about that?" Which is interesting because Nishi is the game guy, right? And Sakamoto is the music guy.
So there's an interview on the Lack of Love website, which I managed to dredge out of the Internet Archive, where it's Sakamoto and Nishi talking. And
Mm-hmm.
Sakamoto specifically says that the reason he clicked with Nishi and not other game developers is that in his experience, game developers were gloomy nerds who he didn't get
Oh.
on with, but he says Nishi was like a really like driven positive guy who was easy to talk to. So Nishi and Sakamoto, they come up with basically a list of like, here are the themes we want to explore, here are the ideas we want to explore, and we'll build the game based on that, rather than
Mm-hmm.
starting with a predefined like genre that we're working in. So they have words and phrases like awareness of the world, something
Yeah.
that feels new when you touch it, acceptance, not exclusion. And everything comes from that. So, like, we've mentioned that the game has a dedicated urinate button. That came out of those discussions because it's like, well, hang on, if we're going to have the thing eat and heal itself by eating, it makes sense that it would then excrete it because we're trying to come up with like a world where everything is connected.
Yeah.
So, what would happen is Nishi would try to figure out how to make Sakamoto's concepts work in game. So, Nishi talks about this being a really, really difficult process because not only is he, as a designer, making something for which there is no pre existing template, he's also aware that it's going to be difficult for the player because
Mm-hmm.
the player doesn't have a pre existing template. They don't know what they're supposed to do. And he's worried that's going to alienate them. And I think what we ran into when we started playing this because we
Mm-hmm.
saw top down game. I have an attack button. I'm evolving. I guess I go around killing things, but it's actually the
Mm-hmm.
opposite of that. And he also said that he specifically didn't want to include spoken language. He wanted as little
Okay.
text as possible, and he wanted as few humans as possible. Because he said adding humans is the easy way out.
Ah,
And he
yeah.
was right.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, toward like the later part of his life, like Sakamoto passed away a couple of years ago, but
Mm.
later in life he got cancer, right? And so, you know, he was weakening and he could not like do performances anymore. So as a final performance, what he did is he's actually filmed and recorded himself like playing some of his work over several sessions. And I think he picked a few soundtracks that he played, and the first soundtrack of this performance is actually uh, the first track from Lack of Love.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of like beautiful. Out of all the tracks he's ever created, out of all
Mm.
his Oscar winning music, the one that he picks to be the first like song on his ever last performance is Lack of Love. And I thought that was like so beautiful.
Yeah, so the soundtrack of Lack of Love was released separately. They make a big point of pushing that the soundtrack is available. It's almost like Lack of Love is a concept album and the game is part of the concept of the
Yeah.
concept album.
I listened to the soundtrack on YouTube, and honestly, like, it's so good. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know, I haven't enjoyed a soundtrack like that in a while.
But also, like, we're talking about how good the soundtrack of Lack of Love is. This game mostly doesn't actually have music in it. It's entirely
No,
ambient.
it's mostly silent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The soundtrack plays when like significant events happen, like when you're evolving or when there's a cutscene. The gameplay is just the ambient sounds of the area that you're in. It's just like kind of cricket chirping and like you can hear bird calls, like water
Mm-hmm.
flowing, wind, things like that. He was involved in that as well. Like he's involved in the whole soundscape. And interestingly, in the interview, he specifically says that he was trying to evoke the feeling of Canada if Canada was on another planet.
Yay!
Yeah, I guess
Go
because I guess to
Canada.
him Canada is just this endless like tundra. So I guess like with everything that we've said in mind now, like revisiting lack of
Mm-hmm.
love, like do you see how do you think like they engage with all that? How do you think they articulate all the stuff that we're talking about? As someone who quit at level 5.
No, but like, after I quit is like when I researched it a bit more and sort of understood the story and how this game got created. I felt a little guilty. I'm like, oh, it's actually like, it's not just a game, it's like a beautiful creation of two people who connected over their love of like the environment, the planet, cooperation, life, like everything. It's just like
Canada.
Canada. It's just, oh, if you look at it holistically, it's just like a beautiful thing, right? I think, but like, you know what? Like you said, girl, if this game came out now, I feel like it should come out now. I feel
Hmm.
like now people would get it more. Like now it would be like, "Oh my god, did you play this cool weird new game that like has no instructions and you got to figure it out?" And you'd have like friggin' 50,000 lore videos about what does it really mean, and like, did you know you could backstab in it, like, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned early on that you were playing one of the levels and you came across a footprint.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, it was a huge ass footprint, and I'm pretty sure it was Halumi's.
So discovering that footprint is the first point at which the two kind of strands of the story actually overlap.
Right.
Because you've started the game as your Metroid Weevil.
Mm-hmm.
Halumi's not in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then like second or third level into it, you suddenly come across the footprint, and that sort of starts tying it together that like you're existing in the same kind of space as Halumi. So you asked, is Halumi giant or am I small?
I guess I'm a tiny creature.
Yeah, this is really well done. The size is always completely relative. You start off and like I would assume the size of the thing you start off as is like a flea or something. It's like a water flea, like it's
Yeah.
tiny.
Yeah.
So that means everything around you that's also tiny seems normal size to you. So we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, there's bugs in it. There's bugs everywhere. The reason there's
Yeah.
bugs everywhere is you start the game as a bug. So of course you're
Mm-hmm.
interacting with other bugs. It doesn't make sense for you to interact with like a massive mammal
Yeah.
because like there's just such a massive difference in size. The mammal doesn't notice you.
Mm-hmm.
So you start like as this little bug thing, and then every time you evolve, you get bigger.
But the thing that happens that I noticed, you get bigger, but also you see more of the environment on screen. That
Yeah,
was that was so good.
yeah. Because what happens is when you get bigger, that's not solely represented by the character physically getting bigger on screen. The environment shrinks down around you to scale
Yeah.
with you. So like when you step out of like your little evolution cocoon egg thing, things that were the same size as you are still there, but they're now half the size of you, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
react to you differently. The world reacts to you differently, and that continues throughout the whole experience. Like you just get every time you get bigger, like your relationship to the world completely reconfigures. So one of the levels is it's this sort of maze of rocks that you have to
Oh
navigate.
yeah, and you end up on a turtle. Is that what you mean?
No, yeah, but the level takes place on the back of a turtle.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what you think of as these like massive canyons are actually just like the spaces in between the plates on its shell.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's sort of what it's doing. And then like when you pop off the back of that, you can then change again and get bigger. And
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't go back there. Like when you get big, it actually locks out previous parts of the game because you physically can no longer interact with those things. Yeah, this I just thought this was really really kind of profound and fascinating for me.
Yeah. No.
Nishi and Sakamoto are making a big point of like, this is a whole interrelated system. All these things live
Mm-hmm.
together, but also they're just kind of off doing their own thing all the time. So, like I mentioned earlier, your character, your goal is just to survive what's going on. Like, you don't really have a ton of agency to affect the plot. Like, I played through this whole thing, and like, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but from Halumi's perspective, the story would play out in the exact same way, whether you were there or not. But from your
Yeah.
perspective, it wouldn't. So, like you mentioned, um, you saw those footprints, right?
Yeah.
That's that's foreshadowing because later on, like Halumi's robot workforce is going to start running over the levels.
Okay. Uh-oh.
So, like, you start seeing like tank treads in the ground, and then like there will be parts where Halloumi will show up on this little like hover scooter, and they'll start doing their terraforming thing while you're there, and there will
Mm-hmm.
literally be this very ominous countdown until the
Mm.
terraforming starts. So like from your perspective, Halloumi is this like horrible giant monster that's come to destroy everything, but from Halloumi's perspective, they don't notice you at all.
Yeah.
It's like if you were driving to work and like a bug splattered on your windshield.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the relationship that you have. That's not like Halumi's not trying to hurt you. They just literally do not notice that you exist because you're a bug. And even like the other bugs don't notice Halumi's there and don't care. So like there's a sequence where Halumi's little like bulldozer tank things, they run over a whole lot of the bugs that you were helping. So like they go from like I'm
No.
helping this little species of bugs try to climb a ravine to oh they've all been crushed. They're all just like and it's quite grotesque. They're like
Mm-hmm.
splattered on the ground like twitching with like guts hanging out. And what happens there isn't like a bug's life or something where like all the bugs join together to fight against Halloum. It's not like Fern Gully or something. So
Yeah.
the response to that, basically, like from your perspective, horrible massacre, is that another bunch of bugs just come out of the ground and they're like, oh, cool food. And they drag all of the corpses back into their nest. And then there's
Yeah.
basically a prison break sequence where you have to get out of that nest. You get these moments that are almost like Metal Gear with the trucks and the boxes where you have to hide in the piles of corpses and they'll move the piles around as they're feeding different bugs. But all of that, like, they're not registering that Halloumi exists. They're not registering the planet's being terraformed. They've just registered there's food outside. And you're kind of the only
Mm-hmm.
thing that knows. So that happens. There are moments where, like I was saying earlier, the way you progress a level is you just have to sit there and wait for something to happen because you don't
Mm-hmm.
actually have control over any aspect of this terraforming project that's happening. So you
Yeah.
might just have to sit there for, I'm not joking, like 10 to 12 minutes of nothing happening. And then arbitrarily, Halloumi will show up and like cause an earthquake or something.
Hmm.
Like that's what the game's like.
But that's what real life is like,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Like you feel like a bug. You feel like you're
Mm-hmm.
insignificant because Halloumi just doesn't care about. Like Halloumi's just driving across you and squishing you. That's not out of malice. They're just doing it because they don't think they're just not processing that like there's anything there. You're living through like this colonial terraforming project from the
Mm-hmm.
perspective of like the bugs that are being squashed when the car rolls across them. You know, it's like that whole thing about cockroaches surviving the apocalypse. Like from
Mm-hmm.
no, but it's like this horrible thing happened, everyone's wiped out, but from my perspective I'm still around and there's food, so who
Yeah.
gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like that's
It's all good, guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so like interesting to actually sit there and like consider all these different like you're actually really understanding the perspective of like a termite in a way that like without needing to humanize it, without needing to give it like I think Nishi's correct in that like he didn't want to give these things dialogue because that
Yeah.
would have humanized them too much. You just have to understand like this is just how a bug sees the world. It's not approaching this like politically or anything. It's not thinking
Keep
about the
your
future.
politics out of my
Yeah,
grass. Yeah.
really like the sort of like the take on it, it's very much about like how you as a player respond to that. Like you're the one who's thinking that through. The
Mm-hmm.
little like water flea's not thinking it through.
Hmm.
And it is just about surviving that.
Yeah.
Like the purpose of the game is just like don't die. Again, not to spoil anything, but like Halloumi's project, the way that it unfolds, you don't really do anything to affect it. Like you end up meeting Halloumi And you meet Halloumi, like, when you're big enough for Halloumi to notice you exist. Like, when you've evolved into this kind of mammalian form, you kind of look like a tapir. When you become the tapir thing, at that point, Halloumi's like, oh, maybe this thing is intelligent. I should catch it and put it in a zoo. Prior to that, no interest in you at all. And you end up in a
Yeah.
zoo, and then it becomes like Halloumi's only going to notice you because they've
Mm-hmm.
set up a series of intelligence tests. And
Mm-hmm.
depending on how well you do in the intelligence tests, Halloumi's like, okay, this animal here, this beats my intelligence test. Therefore, it's important and I'm going to look after it. But that takes like basically 90% of the game. And even at that point, Halloumi is still thinking of you as just like a lab animal or like a zoo exhibit. From your perspective, Halloumi's like the adversary, but from Halloumi's perspective, you're just like a weird tapir thing that they found.
You're a pet.
But you're not even a pet. Like you're,
Not
it's
even a
more like you're
pet.
a zoo.
Oh.
Okay, like this is like minor spoilers, I guess, for the sort of
But
ending
it's
part.
fine. If people don't want spoilers, go watch Architecture Hitman Reborn 5-hour retrospective of season 1.
Or you can watch the first episode of the Jujutsu Kaisen retrospective, in which Sen just
Yeah.
tries to explain the entire plot to me while I'm trying to watch episode one and don't remember anything that happens in it.
People liked it, okay?
Sure. So there is this a part where Halloumi captures you and a bunch of other animals and is experimenting on you, doing like what we would recognize as this is an intelligence test.
Okay.
Halloumi is trying to figure out how smart you are. So you end up in it's a lab essentially, and you're given like basic tasks to do, like can you navigate a maze? Can you move blocks
Mm-hmm.
around? Things like that. So Halloumi can try figuring out, okay, what life on this planet is intelligent, but it's intelligent by Halloumi standards, which are the standards of humans. Going back to the whole, this game is about different species cooperating. At a certain point in your evolution, you realize that the species you're evolving into has a symbiotic relationship with another species that are basically like, I guess, a jellyfish that lives on land. They're these very cute little blob things. And you pick up a little companion. Halloumi isn't registering that there's any complex social relationship going on between you and the blob. So Halloumi forcibly separates you from the blob and then tries to figure out if you're intelligent or not, ignoring that the
Mm-hmm.
relationship with the blob is itself like evidence that you are, like an advanced intelligent being. And then there's this like really interesting part in it where at the end of all of these intelligence tests, Halloumi forces you to choose between, on the one hand, there's a human baby, and on the other hand, there is the blob thing. And Halloumi says, which one of these are you going to rescue? If you pick the blob, you fail. Like, that's not like a morality choice within the game where
Mm-hmm.
you get two different endings or something. If you pick the blob, that's the wrong answer and you just have to go back and do it again. And Halloumi will
Mm-hmm.
force you to repeat that test over and over and over again until you pick the baby. That's so interesting to me. The question is not actually being posed to you by the game itself. Like, this isn't supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be a morality choice. The question is being posed to you by Halloumi, and you have to give Halloumi the answer that Halloumi wants.
Yeah.
So, like, whether you think that's the right answer isn't important. What's important is what Halloumi thinks the right answer is. So you're even getting into, like, what is the thought process of this robot? And, again, not to spoil the ending, but Halloumi also does change. Halloumi is exposed to the world and does come to understand how it works. And
Oh.
it ends on a note of, like, this isn't actually so bad. But also at the same time, you didn't have a say in that. Like, you just watched it happen. Because from your perspective, you're just surviving a catastrophe. And that
Yeah.
ultimately kind of resolves itself. It's like it's just like such an interesting, like, I completely understand why this didn't sell well. Calling it like an RPG or an adventure or something, it really isn't. Really, it's just about surviving something by understanding how it works. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of like you having a big confrontation with the villain at the end, the villain just comes to understand things your way. And like when people say that, like, oh, it's so weird, this is a game where they have started with, here's what we want to do, and they've built the game around that. Like everything's actually entirely consistent and coherent internally. It just
Yeah.
doesn't neatly fit into a genre, but that doesn't mean it's incomprehensible. It just means it's not really like something you've played before.
It's pretty comprehensible. It's just like you're saying, it doesn't fit what we would expect of a game. It's not like a random thing where nothing makes sense, and it makes sense in its own ecosystem.
If I were to compare it to anything, I was thinking it's a little bit like Marvelous Another Treasure Island on SNES, maybe, but it's similar to like an old text or point and click adventure game where like there would be
Hmm.
puzzles and we can sit back and say those puzzles don't make any sense because I'm like defeating a yeti with a pie or something. But like that's because the logic of those puzzles isn't you sit there and methodically figure out like a lock and key solution. It's like it's a sort of narrative solution. It's like imagining what does this character in the story want to happen rather
Yeah.
than like use the red key on the red door.
Yeah, yeah.
It's that, but it's you're not even dealing with humans. You're dealing with
Hmm.
like antelope and tapir and like kind of
Yeah.
Cambrian bug things.
Wait, Sophie, you said halloumi means something.
Yeah, so halloumi is a kind of cheese.
Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Well,
I'm
no,
like,
this
this is so familiar.
yeah.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Obviously the game's Japanese, R and L in Japanese get mixed up, transliterated because in Japanese it's the same sound, right? So the reason we're saying halloumi is that in the manual, the robot is called halloumi like in English characters. Like it's spelled
Yeah.
Halumi. It's called halloumi throughout that, right? Even though everything else
Yeah.
is in Japanese. In the game FAQ's guide to lack of love, which was written in 2000, so it came out contemporaneously with the game. It is now a 26-year-old FAQ. It has this like appendix, and in the appendix there is an excerpt from an article about a university student called Harumi Kawamura who gave a speech about what she called. Do you want to guess what it was called?
I don't know.
She gave a speech about the lack of love. So this led me down a very sparse but also very strange rabbit hole, and I don't have an answer at the end of it because it just went cold. I double checked. Like the article that's an excerpt from is real, right? This is not like some
Okay.
in-universe ARG thing. That is a real article. I found two
Okay.
completely independent, distinct copies of it. She is a
Yeah.
student at the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut, and she gives the speech at an event that is run by an organization called the Pure Love Alliance, who are an abstinence group, but they're also a front for the Unification Church.
Okay. What?
Yeah, no, and I'm like, wait, what? And I'm looking into this. I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on with this Harumi Kawamura. She's definitely like a real person because you can look at the University of Bridgeport student newspaper and she frequently writes for it. There's so many questions here about like what relevance this has to lack of love because yeah, you've got Harumi and the lack of love, but also her speech is from 1999. But Lack of Love starts development in 1998, and the name comes from Sakamoto. Like, I have no idea if this is just a massive coincidence or not, because if it is a coincidence, it's a pretty significant one. But it's not as if Harumi Kawamura's speech about lack of love was like published in magazines, or it became like a book, or she later wrote some like massively influential thesis or something. In order for them to be connected, like Sakamoto would or Nishi would have had to be connected to like what was going on in an abstinence movement in Connecticut while they were developing this game in Japan. And then,
Sounds like a coincidence.
well, you'd think it's a coincidence, but then you see, like, but she's called Harumi.
Okay, but also Nishi and Sakamoto met. Where they met is a club that's literally called Eden.
Yeah,
Considering the game they met, that's a pretty big whoa,
yeah.
you know?
And the thing is, I wanted to chase this up, but the guy that wrote the FAQ that quotes this His
Yeah.
only contact email is on his personal website that no longer exists, so I have no way of contacting him. So I don't know where he got this from. I don't know if he thinks it's a coincidence. I don't know if he thinks it's deliberate. Like, again, I don't know, and I don't know how to chase this up. But it's
Hmm.
so odd that this happened. So I've got a final little statement from Nishi about lack of love. So this is his sort of closing remarks in the interview that's on the website, and it just says, "Lack of love is supposed to be an RPG, but what is it?
Mhm.
I asked Sakamoto, and he said that when his music goes to America, it gets played on the world music station. But in Japan, it's not world music, is it? It's Japanese. Genre classifications are messed up, so I'm starting to think it just doesn't matter." There you go.
Sophie, do the outro.
That was LOL Lack of Love, a Dreamcast game that no one bought. Because
It
no
was
one bought it,
supposed to
physical
be a
copies are shockingly expensive. Luckily, you can steal it from archive.org.
But it was supposed to be a PlayStation game.
Yeah, he wanted to make it on PlayStation, and then he thought the Dreamcast was, which it was, like it was more powerful than the PlayStation.
Yeah, but
Well, he talks about how like he sort of wanted, he was interested in having characters communicate through facial expressions, but the Dreamcast still wasn't up to that.
This should have been the PlayStation 2 game. That's
Yeah.
the one. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sophie. We learned a lot.
Thank you, Sen. Do you have any appreciation for this game you quit halfway through and went to the gym?
I went to the gym
Get
to
the
work
anger out.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe one day we'll have a stream, we'll grab a drink, we'll relax. It'll be a safe space for gaming.
What a fascinating game.
Well, yeah, I
It
do have a new
taught me to
appreciation for
understand
it.
the world from the perspective of a flea.
But you know what? Sometimes I think about it. We have like bunnies and foxes and coyotes and wolves and like creatures running around here, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like I wonder, it must really suck for them because they like do their own thing and they don't have a choice. They can't buy a house. They gotta work around
To be fair, do they
us. You
want a
know what I mean?
mortgage? No, but I thought it was interesting that like you're seeing so much of the world from the perspective of animals, but it's not
Yeah.
just giving them human personalities.
Wow, this went on for an hour and 38 minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean
Whoa.
that fucking Souls one was 5 hours before I edited it.
This is good.
This is a breezy 90 minutes.
Well, thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sen.
And thank you wait, before we go. First I gotta show you this. Do you see what it is?
It's like cubes that are lighting up when you touch them.
Yes, but it's actually like a two keyboard connected keyboard buttons, right?
Okay.
That I got at a Tacothon, which is like Montreal Anime Convention, right? Yeah, but can you make out what?
Oh, for God's sake! Yes, it's
what is drawn on
It's
them?
Suna and Reborn.
And it's drawn by an artist. It's
You'd
artist
hope so.
stuff. I got it from an artist.
It's not AI.
But no, I have to read something too. So we released the episode where you watch the first episode of JJK.
Well, no, it's not the episode where I watch it. It's the episode where I try watching it.
The episode where I try watching it.
Look, if it's I don't look. I feel like generally the first episode of a show, if it's competently done, will introduce the premise and characters for me. I don't need you doing it while I'm watching it.
Okay, but they don't tell you that Megumi is Zenin and not Fushiguro.
I don't remember who the fuck Megumi is because there were a series of distractions caused by an unnamed individual that prevented me from focusing.
Okay, so here's some comments on that video. Nolan Brewer says, this has the vibe of me trying to show my mom Dragon Ball when I was 8. Sleepy Pink Puppy says, this is what it's like when I try to show things to my partner. 10 out of 10 will do again.
Okay.
Uh, Farrellinto Kiz something quizzes says this is the Dark Souls of trying to watch anime on hard mode on crack.
Thank you. Yes. You get it.
Fuffin says, I feel like Reborn is more realistic than this. Quotes. Amazing endorsement.
Was it you or I that said that?
You asked me and I said.
Okay.
Barbarossa says, the confusion is the reason to watch this. I've read JJK and I'm confused. Good job.
Did you point out that the soap dispenser in the bathroom of the restaurant I
not
go
yet.
to?
We're keeping that for another episode.
Oh, good. Okay, there's a carrot for you.
Gabriella
the secret
says,
of the
oh
soap
God.
dispenser in country kebabs on Lydiard Street.
Gabriella said, oh my God, my favorite podcasters are talking about what is becoming my favorite anime. Yay!
I hope to be able to watch it one day too.
Bastian says, I don't know why, but this is everything. I need more. ZDK says, I've been waiting for this. Someone's been waiting for this, Sophie. Oh my God.
I mean, after that Dark Souls video, I did check out the channel of someone who was obliquely mentioned in it, and they had a 2-hour-long complete Lore of Aldrich video that was released like 2 months ago. So I feel like I've made the right decision.
One last one. Your Red Dog says, Sophie asks, who is this for? And their answer is me. It's for me. Give me 6 seasons and a movie.
Fine.
Okay, well, thank you, Sophie.
Thank you. This has more endings than Lord of the Rings. Thank you, Sin.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. And see you all next time.
Goku, Dara, and Reborn are going to come through the door. Oh my God.